If you get diagnosed with cancer, that's the worst day of your life. And then I get to tell you, oh, by the way, your max out of pocket's 20 grand on the worst day of your life. Like I refuse, I will never do that. And I will make sure that agents I work with are not going to do that. But obviously I can't control
Yeah.
everything, but if I see it, I will address it. And if I'm not liked because of it, we know that sometimes we're not liked. I'm okay with that.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I See Life. Michael Garcia here. And today I got a special guest today, Priscilla Moreno. She has made a name for herself in the health industry. And one of the things that I really admire about Priscilla is just the integrity of the way she serves her clients. I feel very much like myself in the fact that, hey, I want to make sure my clients have the best products. And Priscilla, she's always looking out for her clients, making sure they have the best products and the right coverage for them. So, without further ado, hi Priscilla, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
Great, great. So, yeah, I had a chance to connect with you, still fairly recently, right? We got to know each other over the past, I want to say, month or two,
Mhm.
and yeah, I just feel like what I do on the life side, you're kind of the same person on the health insurance portion of things, and we just kind of connected on kind of the honestly the wrongs that are in the insurance industry. But I always like to get started, kind of what got you into the industry in the first place.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I always say I didn't find insurance, insurance found me. We definitely don't grow up and you're like, I can't wait to work in insurance. Insurance has a sneaky way of finding you. Typically, when you go in, when you're getting into the industry, it's like, I always say it's similar to real estate, except our products aren't as fun. But when you get into the industry, most people come into it either broke or broken or both. I was definitely both. And for me, it was like I knew that I've helped build businesses for other people before, and I really enjoyed watching that turn because I mean, when the business is failing, like nobody enjoys it. Everyone's like struggling, like employees aren't getting paid, clients aren't enjoying shopping and stuff. So I really enjoyed marketing those businesses and turning them from like a negative to, going into the green. And then that was my retail background. So I used to say, because I never considered insurance sales. So I used to say that I've sold everything except for drugs and real estate. And so I guess I could still say that, but because I still haven't sold drugs. But so going into that for me, I was like, well, what do I want to do with my life? Because retail, I've sold everything. Retail is slowly dying. So how do I get like my skill set for growing businesses? And then when I was leaving retail, I went into medical billing. I have a very sales type personality. And so putting that personality into medical billing was like doomed for failure. Like I used to like knock on our nurse's door and I'm like, "Hey, what do you want to do for lunch?" And they were just kind of like, "Are you like done working?" And so talking to like insurance companies all day and trying to get like claims paid and make sure the doctor gets paid, all of that. And so I'm like, how do I combine that? My knowledge of health insurance, talking to insurance companies, and my knowledge of growing a business, and how do I merge those two together? And so then I had a friend of a friend that helped me work on my resume. And because I mean, I had never needed a resume. Somehow I always got recruited everywhere I worked. And so I was like, hey, I really need a resume. Like I woke up one day and I was like, oh my gosh, like what am I doing with my life? Like at that clinic. So when I went to that clinic, in retail, I found a way to make six figures. I worked a lot, sometimes like multiple retailers at the same time to make six figures. So I built a life around a six-figure earner. And then when I worked at that clinic, they paid me like with bonuses and everything. I made about 80,000 my first year. And I was like, okay, well, I can make this work because I have a lot of my life back. Like I'm from San Antonio, but I was living in Houston. And so I would drive back on Christmas Day because the day after Christmas is super busy in retail, or I would drive back to Houston like on Thanksgiving because of Black Friday. So I was like, well, I have a lot of my life back. I can actually shop for Black Friday instead of,
Yeah.
like, and so I was getting complacent, telling myself I can make this work. There was no growth for me. There was no promotions or growth there. And then the second year, they said, hey, you did really good about converting our clients. You made all of the bonuses and commissions. Because the thing is, and I think everyone needs this, if you show me structure and like where I need to go for sales goals to make commissions, I'm going to hit them. I already have in my head, I'm going to hit them.
Right.
And so I did. And then They came like during my evaluation, they were like, well, you hit all your targets and we paid you too much money, essentially. So they're like, we're having cutbacks. And so my second year, they said, we're going to increase, which this never happened, but they're like, we're going to increase your salary, but we're going to take away the commissions and bonuses. And then we're going to make you like more of an area patient advocate. So patient advocates like advocating for patients for their health insurance. And so they're like, in that you're going to go to multiple clinics. So they gave me more workload. And then they stripped away income. So my second year, I made 50,000. And so I closed a 401k, which we can talk about on your side, how awful that was. And for me, I was like, man, like I cut my income in half within 2 years. I got a car repoed. I went into foreclosure in my home. That's why I closed the 401k to get out of foreclosure. And then, I mean, slowly was running out of money. And so I woke up one day um almost like in a full panic attack. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm like selling my soul to these people and I'm allowing them to tell me what I'm worth and I'm struggling. I'm barely like able to figure out what I'm going to eat. And I was coaching CrossFit at the time. And for me, I was like, well, CrossFit was like I was never dependent on that income. And then I was slowly starting to ask them, I'm like, hey, have you paid me yet? And I'm like, man, I don't like that feeling. And so going back to my friend that I asked to help me work on that resume, she's so funny. She was like, Priscilla, your resume was so bad, I should have charged you for it, but I but I did it for you. And since she was working on it, she didn't post it anywhere, but she was working on it online somewhere. And so somebody in
Okay.
health insurance found me. And so they were like, hey, do you want to sell health insurance? And I was like, oh, that's what I do now. Not knowing the differences because I definitely was not doing that then. And so I was like, yeah, absolutely. They were like, our average agent makes six figures. And I was like, okay, well, I'm willing to work. I worked retail on my feet for hours and hours. And so I'm willing to work. Like, you put me in a cubicle and I have to work 12 to 14 hours. That sounds great because I'm not on my feet. And so I went to go interview and they like gave me the pitch, like the pitch that that we've all gotten. And I was like, man, this sounds like a total scam. And so, because a lot of like insurance recruiters, like they definitely sound scammy. This one wasn't, thankfully. And so I was like, okay, because he talked a lot about income. And for me, like the highest I had ever made was like very low, like 103,000, like very low six figures. And so I could not get it to click that I was able to make two, three, 400,000. I was like, nobody makes that. Like I don't see like I correlated with two, 300,000 of income with like Lamborghinis and like super fancy purses and jewelry. And I was like, that's doesn't seem right. Like people are scamming. And so this girl walked by and he was like, you see that girl over there? She made 267,000 last year. And I'm like, there's no freaking way. Like she does not look like she's real fancy. Like she just had a like she looked normal. Like she looked like me. And so I was like, man, like somebody like me can make what she makes. Like she's like in her cowboy boots and I live in Texas. So she's like in her cowboy boots, like just living life.
Yeah.
And so it's like that does not seem right. And so then he was like, so anyone, there was six of us in the room, and he was like, is anyone interested in the second interview? And everyone said no. And I was like, man, like that's weird that people would say no. I was like, there's something here. Like, why is everyone saying no? Like this guy just said you could make good money and you like, and he did talk about like how good like the product offering was, like how good it was like to take care of your clients. Like you feel like very like great at the end of the day and you're building a life for yourself. And so I was like, it's so weird that everyone said no. So maybe I should say yes because the people that were sitting on this side, I didn't want their life. I wanted the people sitting on the other side. So I scheduled it and I was like, well, I can come on Friday for my second interview, but I get off work. So I was like, I get off work at 12:30. And he was like, well, the earliest I can interview you is 12. And then I was like, is this guy not listening to me? I get off at 12:30. And he was like, okay, so you can come in at 12. And I was like, I get off at 12:30. And he was like, he's like, oh my gosh, I forgot. Like, you can't leave those places. Like, that must suck. And I was like, that's weird that I was like, that's so weird. And then he left and he's like, I have you scheduled at noon. And I was like, okay. And so he left and I went to my car and I was like, that is so weird that he like didn't honor my schedule. Like he didn't like and so then I was like, you know why? Because he doesn't no one tells him what to do. Like he was like, oh, somebody tells you what to do kind of thing. He's like, oh wow. And he couldn't like that couldn't compute in his head because no one tells him what to do. He writes his own schedule. And I was like, that's nice. And so I like thought about it. I checked my bank account, which was very, very low at the time. And so I was like, well, I mean, I can't make this. There's no freaking way. Like he said, 100% commission. And so I went back to work and then I got there like a little over an hour early. Because in on the health insurance space, when you work in billing, you have to make sure like there's pre-auth, which we can talk about when it comes to like product offering, but you have to make sure there's pre-auth and you're authorizing the insurance so that way the doctor gets paid. And so I get there early so that way I can make sure my doctor gets paid because I didn't want to get fired. And I brought breakfast because I was there early. I brought breakfast and the doctor comes in and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like making sure like all of like the pre-authorizations are done, like all the files, like every patient's organized so that way when patients come in, we're not like scrambling of like trying to figure out their chart or what treatment they need, like everything's organized, ready to go for the day. She's like, "No, I mean like why is there breakfast over there?" It was a banana that was had its peel on still on a plate. Like it was like there was no like weird breakfast. And I was like, oh, I came in early, and so I have my breakfast over there. And she was like, okay. And she goes to her office, and I was like, I was so in the weeds with like patient files and stuff. So I was like, okay, I didn't think twice about it. And so she took a picture of it. I didn't even see her. I was like too busy trying to get her paid. And so she takes the picture of it and she sends it to my boss. Thinking that like I like wouldn't fight like my boss was trying to like, well, like, do you bring your breakfast in the morning? And I'm like, okay, like just tell me like exactly what happened. She's like, well, I mean, you had your banana up front. And I'm like, it was only the doctor. Like no one else saw that, but no one cares. And so she was like, yeah, like she just wants you to like work more at a different clinic because she doesn't want food up front. I'm like, it was an hour and a half before patients were coming in. And so I was like, man, this feels like a dictatorship almost. I'm at that point, I was like, I'm 33 years old. I want to feel like an adult. Like, I don't want to feel like I'm at like an elementary school and, being told like when I can go to vacation or like when I can eat a banana. So I was like, man, that commission only job sounding really good. And so then, then it comes Friday and it's for some weird reason in the medical field, no one ever leaves early ever. And so for some weird reason, we left early. Like we finished working at 11:30. So the universe pushing me towards insurance. And
Yeah.
so I was like, well, man, if we're done at 11:30, I should just go in. I should go in and talk to that girl that made 267,000 last year and just tell her like thank you but no thank you. Like even though like I was really like frustrated with the banana situation. And that obviously wasn't the first. I mean, they cut my pay in half. Like that obviously wasn't the first circumstance. And so I walk in and I was like, hey, I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity of like interviewing me, but like I don't have enough money saved for a commission only type career. And she kind of laughed. She's like, man, we can't even get people to come in that are like interested, and you come in not interested. And I was like, okay. And so we started chatting and stuff. And she's like, if you treat this like a business and you care about your clients with integrity, if you take care of your clients the right way, like you can build a wonderful life for yourself. And so then like through conversation, I was like, yeah, but you didn't really make 267, right? Like there's no freaking way. And she's like, well, she just turned her laptop around. She's like, this is my 1099. You can see it for yourself. And I was like, okay. And I was like, you're just not like very fancy. She's like, I put all my money back into my business. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. And I was like, man, like just normal people, like hustling, taking care of people, like I want her life. And so I was like, perfect. Like she had the life that I wanted. And so I had somebody to follow. She takes me upstairs and then she was like, let me show you what it looks like to take care of a client. She gets on her laptop and she ironically like everything just like if for the universe if everything's aligning right like everything's starting to align for me like at my old job like they're like pushing me out essentially right like I'm starting to get like more and more unhappy and then it's perfect alignment for me to get there at the perfect time. It's perfect alignment for me to listen to her with a client like she just happens to have a client scheduled. And so I'm like, if the universe is aligning like that, y'all need to listen. And so I was like, okay, let me go upstairs and listen to her take care of this client. And they barely talked about health insurance. Like they just talked about business, they talked about their family, like they joked around, like there was no rules of what they could talk about either. Like they talked about like politics, religion, like they were joking, like they just had fun like chatting. And then she showed them like what she was recommending and then she signed him up and then that was it. And I was like, okay. And then she showed me like what like residual wise, because health insurance has like incredible residuals. So she showed me like, payments, like what you would get up front and then what you would make like at renewals and everything. And I'm like, man, you didn't even really work. Like you just chatted with a friend. And she's like, absolutely. Could you see yourself doing that? And she didn't tell me how hard it was to find that client, but she was like, can you see yourself doing that? And I was like, I mean, most definitely. I will do that times 100. Like I don't care. Absolutely. And so she was like, okay, so let's do it. Let's get you licensed. So then they like signed me up, right? And then I leave and I was like, what just happened? Like, I'm like, did I sign myself up? Because they're real quick of getting you signed up? And
Yeah.
so I'm like, did I just apply? Did I just apply to like take my license? Like, what is happening? And she said I could help clients before getting licensed. They would help sell it for me. And so I was like, okay, so then let me work on my license. And so then I go back to my job. And I'm like, let me take some PTO because I I can like dip my toe in, like I can see, and then I'll just go back to my job. And then that same week, they lost 4 employees in that one clinic. And that one clinic probably had 10 people working there. So they lost like 40% of their staff. And I was like, man, like this is just not it. Like, let me just rip the Band-Aid and quit. And
Yeah.
so I did. I ended up starting my insurance business with negative 1,200. So that's what got me into the business. My first year was incredibly hard, probably one of the hardest things that I've ever done because you're just never sure. Like you have like ebbs and flows. I wanted to quit more times than I can count. I actually took another job because I was like, well, my electricity was cut off. So I was like, well, I need this job to pay my bills. And again, that nothing aligned with that job. Everyone was telling me, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Is that job going to get you there? I was like, well, no, it's
Yeah.
not. And so even the times that I wanted to quit, I was like, nowhere else is going to get me where I want to go. Just keep freaking pushing. And then you get over those humps. Then you push your one behind you and you're like, okay, I've got some money saved. Then you push your two behind you and you're like, okay, now I can get an assistant. Then you push your three behind you. And now I'm 6 years in, working on my seventh year. And here we are having this conversation. So,
Yeah. That's there's so much that you said right there. I was just like, man, so relatable. But yeah, I think the story that came to mind as you were talking about the guy hiring you said come in at 12. And I remember when I first realized that I could make money outside of my job, I met somebody who was financially independent and he gave me a book. He was a network marketer, right? But a very successful one. And he goes, here's a book. Can you read this in 48 hours? I want to know that you're serious.
mm,
And it was Tuesday. So keep in mind, this is like middle of the week. And I'm like, well, Wednesday I got work. Thursday I
mhm,
got work. And I worked a job that I didn't know what time I was getting off. And not only that, but my Wednesday night was already booked.
mhm,
So I was like, man, how am I going to read this book? And so I did try to read a little bit on Wednesday. I got almost nowhere. And I just remember Thursday thinking, well, I'm not going to miss this opportunity. I need to explore this. I need to get there. And I remember just calling in to my job, like, hey, I'm sick. like, and I did that just to read this book. And I remember it was like around 3 o'clock that afternoon, and I had finished the book, and um, I called him up. I was like, hey, I'm good. When can we meet again?
that's
like,
awesome.
and yeah, it just comes down to like how bad somebody wants it. And you're talking about those people who didn't want a second interview.
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
they clearly just don't want it, right? Like this is not for everybody. And
Yeah.
there's a certain level of desire, certain level of commitment and work that's required that not many are willing to go through, right? Even on the learning curve and being new at something. So you
Mhm.
mentioned your first year was kind of rough, right? Ups and downs. And
Mhm.
when kind of like share your learning curve, right? Like what struggles did you go through and when did you really feel like, okay, I'm locked in. I got this.
I remember my mentor was like, if I help you get enough clients under your belt, you won't leave. And she was right because essentially, like, the statistics say like only 8% make it, like
Yeah.
after 3 years, only 8% make it, but that 8% will never leave it. I like that statistic. Some people forget to say that part. Like if you're part of the 8%, you'll do it for life. And it's a beautiful thing, like doing it for life. It's not like something that is like, oh man, I like sold my job or sold my soul to work 30 years at this job or whatever, which I get calls like that all the time with people getting laid off and they're like, I worked for them for 30 years. And so it's a beautiful thing to have a business like this that is consistently helping you grow and you get to do things like speak at events, speak on like Zoom like this. I get to speak at events. Like I'm working on writing my book. Like I would have never had any of this opportunity for all of those hardships. And so you have to like remember like those hardships are helping fuel you for they're happening for you. They're not happening to you. They're helping like create the person that you're meant to become. And so for me, like when I knew that like I wanted to do it for life or I was going to do it for life, like I always wanted to, like that's the difference, right? Like
Right.
how bad do you want it? Because like you are going to get tested, like how it's not necessarily like do you want it? Like do you have the mental fortitude?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's like I remember like my a business coach that I worked with, she talked about if your family, like if you're like say it's like, category 5 hurricane, like things are going crazy and your family is you're at point A, like you're at say like at the bank or something, I don't know, but and point B is your family at home and like walls and windows are getting broken and you like their only lifeline is you. Are you gonna like not get to them because a few trees are in the way? Like, no, you're gonna get to them. And so that's like the mental fortitude that it takes. Like health insurance is like, okay, well, I'm gonna help massive clients, but then it's like, okay, well, I gave up because there was a tree in the road or there's a couple branches in the road. Like it's like, no, I have the mental fortitude to get to climb over that tree. And so that's the decision that it takes to keep going. And so for me, it was like, what is like the true alternative? Like I wasn't going to go back to school, that's for sure. I was never that good of a student in a college environment. And for me, it was like, okay, well, retail's slowly dying. So I'm like, I know I don't want to work for someone. So I need to make this work. Like I need to help more people. And so after my first full year, so I started in 2019. After my first full year, so I kept like saying, it's so funny. I kept giving myself small goals. I didn't even realize it. I kept giving myself small goals. Like I was like, okay, I'll help 10 clients. I'll just help 10 clients and then I'll quit. But I mean, that's the goals that it takes. Like write those goals down. I didn't realize like that I was actually doing that, but I was like, I'll quit after I help this, like after I had 4 clients call me, I'll quit after I help them. Like I'll get them in a good spot because I'm not going to just walk away, right?
Right.
When these clients like actually need help. So I'll get them in a good spot and then I'll quit. And then this was in 2019. And then they give you milestones. Like my old brokerage gave us milestones. So I was like, well, I'll hit one of their first milestones is 100K. So I was like, I'll hit my 100K and then I'll quit. So that way I can say, like, I didn't fail. Like, I just quit, like, and so then I hit my 100K. But when you start to hit goals like that, then you have clients that are sending you more referrals and then you have like relationships that you're building. Like it doesn't just stop. Like once you get the faucet going, the water just doesn't like just turn off on its own. And the same thing, you get like a train moving, like the train doesn't just stop, like I already got the train in motion. And so then I was like, okay, fine. Like I'll hit 200,000 and then I'll quit. And then at this point, it was like right before open enrollment. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to leave for open enrollment. And so I was like, after open enrollment, I was like, then I'll quit. And so then after open enrollment, it was super busy. I made sure I marketed myself correctly so that people knew that I existed. Some people just sit for open enrollment thinking their phone's gonna ring. I'm like, I made sure that my cards were everywhere. People like really knew that they could use me as a resource. And then I was like, then January's gonna like just die and then I can quit. January did not die because you like help massive amount of people and they send you referrals in January, February too. And so at that point, when I saw all of that fall in line, and then I like started my business in overdraft, I at that point I had $13,000 saved. And I was like, man, like I was like credit card debt, all of this stuff. Like now I have 13,000 in liquid. And then I have like financial planners asking like where I'm going to put this money, you know? And I was like, man, I'm having conversations that I would have never had before, you know, like, and
Right.
so at that point, I hired a business coach and I was like, I constantly want to quit, help me not quit. And she was like, okay, like, what do you want to do next year? So 2020 came and she's like, what do you want to do next year? And I was like, I want to do $1 million in production because I know if you break it down, I know that puts me in front of a lot of clients that truly need my help. And then it helps me stay in business to continue to help more people. And so at that point, like I was pretty locked in. And then COVID hit, March, COVID hit. And I just remember like almost like on my knees of gratitude with the amount of calls I was getting with people that were like, hey, like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I lost my job, but I need health insurance. I was like, man, I would have been in a really terrible position if I had stayed with that clinic, you know, like, or if I had stayed in retail. Like the whole, everything
Right.
was shutting down. But we were doing this a lot, you know, Zooms because everything was shut down. So we were Zooming a lot. I even worked out with Zooms, which was pretty cool. And so I was like, man, like I get to still build my business during a global pandemic. I'm so grateful. Like, I mean, it gives me goosebumps. I'm like, I'm so grateful I climbed over those trees. And so at that point, like, I was a true lifer. So now you couldn't drag me away.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good picture too, because when you're thinking about like the path you're going on, and you said you're like getting to your family, would you quit because there's a few trees in the way? And I always tell people like once you understand what's at stake and what you have at your fingertips and you have available to you, you don't ever quit the business.
Hmm.
You really don't, right?
Yeah.
And I tell client or agents, marry your goals to the business. Like understand that, right?
Hmm.
This is a path to get to your goals because ultimately you don't, you know, you wouldn't be quitting your journey. You'd be quitting on getting to your family.
Hmm.
You'd be
Yeah,
quitting
that's exactly it.
on helping them, right? And same thing with this business. You don't ever quit the business. You quit on your family, what you wanted to do for them, especially if you go back to a job that's never going to provide that, right?
A hundred
Uh,
percent.
some people might, start a different type of business and find a different way, but most people, that's not what they do, right? They just
Right.
just completely quit on the people they care about and
Hmm.
go right back to what they were doing prior. And so it is kind of sad, but yeah, it does take mental toughness that, not a lot of people have. And I would even say, hey, there might be something wrong with us because we have this crazy mental toughness and we're
Yeah, you have to
almost
be a
like,
little crazy to work in insurance. So
yeah, you have to have like this tolerance for stress and pain that nobody else has,
mhm,
right?
yeah.
Especially in the beginning, when you're trying to get that faucet turned on,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so obviously, you had the toughness, you went through that phase, uh, and then one thing I love about you is that you always keep the client first of mind. I know I've seen this on the life insurance side in particular with a lot of like IULs, even though IULs are not a scam,
Yeah.
there are a lot of agents that are scams, right?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
they're
Absolutely.
they're selling the product as something that it's not. And one thing I've learned from you is you actually see a lot of that on the health side too. So
Mhm.
tell me a little bit about what's going on the health side and kind of things that you're trying to help clean up.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, there are times still that I'm like, man, like I see all this, you see a lot of darkness in the industry, you know, like you just see like ugly. Like you see people that talk behind your back because they don't have like there's a little bit of like there's a level of responsibility that comes with success. Because when I started at the bottom, I had a lot of friends. I had a lot of people who were like, "Yeah, girl, you got it." And then once I started like really working hard, and I'm thinking everyone else is working hard too, and I'm having success or not, which is not like the truth. So sometimes like you need to reevaluate and go back to like, hey, what is the true truth? Because lies can derail you. And so for me, it was like once I kind of started leaving some of those circles because they, even though they were invited, they didn't follow, then they go back to the level of gossip, and that's hurtful because a lot of times you build those relationships with people that you really care about and you believed in them too. And you're like, you can kill it with me, and you're inviting them to your table, and they're just like, oh, her table sucks. And that's hurtful. That's hard. Like it's harder than a lot of people think. And so But I know that everyone that has been successful, they're like, well, as soon as you're pulling me back and not lifting me up, then it's time to reevaluate that relationship. And that's completely okay. Like, not
Right.
everyone is meant to go with you far. It's kind of like rockets. You know how those big rockets have, I don't know the technical terms with rockets, but you know how they have like those like boosters? Well,
Yeah.
those boosters fall off, and so that happens if you're growing new levels, new devils kind of thing. But there is a lot of darkness. So for me, it's like when I saw that amount of darkness, I was like, man, I don't think this is the right industry for me. There was a lot of times like that. Because again, like I see people that are like making money that are screwing people over. I see people that are like really schemy that are like, hey, come work for me. And they don't even know the products themselves. And I see people that are like, tell clients, like, this is the only way, this is the best option ever. Kind of like IULs, and I'm like,
Yeah.
if you don't, yeah. And I remember telling an agent because I can be pretty direct. I think that's why you and I get along so well. Um, but I remember telling an agent, I'm like, and I'm going to remind you of something you told me that really, like, really stuck with me. But I remember telling an agent, I'm like, you are not willing to learn the product. Like, you're just like repeating, like, well, this is the best option ever. You're not asking the client any questions. I'm like, there's a level of laziness to that because you're trying to make a quick buck because sometimes commissions are high. Let's be real. Like in certain carriers, like in those carriers are paying you higher commissions for a reason. I honestly like I have people ask me how I get paid. I'm like, I don't know when I hit finish on the application. I'm like, I honestly don't like know what I get paid from because I know like it doesn't matter. Like I know if I take care of the client, like money's gonna flow. And so with like that stuff happening, I told that client or I told that agent, I'm like, you're not willing to learn the product. And I'm like, and if this client gets cancer, they're screwed because like you weren't willing to learn the product and you were just trying to make a quick buck. I don't work with people like that. I was like, I can't teach you integrity. I can teach you, the steps of like going over plans. I can teach you the market, but I can't teach you to, go behind my back and like tell this client they're in a good spot and then they get cancer, they're screwed. I was like, that is like you're screwing somebody over. That's not okay. That's not okay. I don't care like if I'm sitting in the dark and my electricity is off. Like that's not okay. You don't do that. And he was like, okay, and he blocked me. And that's hard. That's hard when you go through stuff like that. You're like, man, like, am I the right fit for this stuff? But then I'm like, if I quit, who are people going to have? Or who are agents going to be able to look up to? Like something that really stuck with me that you said is financial burden, right? Like, which is the on the health side too. Like medical debt can completely bankrupt somebody.
Right.
And a lot of times it's because they couldn't afford to pay the premium when they got sick, which can correlate to like disability insurance. But something that stuck out for me that you said was the number one reason for suicide is financial burden. And so if I don't take care of somebody, same thing for me, like, right, if they have that financial burden, if I don't take care of somebody, I'm contributing potentially to somebody's suicide. And that is like just a non-negotiable for me. I'm like, I don't care
Right.
if they started cutting commissions in half, then great. That's an opportunity to help double the amount of clients, right? Like, and so I think that people just look at it as like it's a get rich quick scheme, and it's not. You need to really take care of people the right way, and money will flow. One thing that I will say is like for my old brokerage, if I find better options for my clients, I will leave because I will I'll try to sell it. Like I'll try to find a way to sell it. Because when I worked for that brokerage, I really believed, and it was at some point probably one of the best plans available, but I truly believed it was the best product offering. So I decided to align with those people. And then when it wasn't, when there was other product offerings that were available, I did. I kept my word. But everyone that I said that to agreed with me. They're like, absolutely, I will do the exact same thing. And so when I left, no one agreed with me because they had a bunch of bonuses and residuals and stuff that they had built up. For me, I walked away from, I mean, I'll just be transparent. I walked away from over $200,000 of quarterly bonuses, residual income. And I was okay with that because if I stay with somebody that is not have the same core values that I have and we're not in alignment, I'm losing more by staying. So if I
Yeah.
move brokerages and I'm in alignment and they're going where I want to go in 5 years, I have great product offering for clients. Like I'm truly like able to shop everything truly, then I'll end up that 200,000 will end up being nothing. In the big picture, that 200,000 will end up being just a small little hiccup, a small little branch in my story. So,
Yeah. And same thing on my end, right? It When I see certain products, I'm like, I can't even believe those products are even sold because I know there's better products that are going to serve the client so much better and be much more affordable for them, have better benefits, whatever it is. That's one of my like core things too. I want number one, my clients to be in the best products. Number two, I want my agents to be in the best position to win.
mhm,
Well, how do I do that? Well, if I give them the best products that serve the clients the best at the best rates with the best carriers, then nobody else can compete.
mhm.
I don't want any of my agents losing to some other agent because they had a better product. That's just not going to happen in my
Right.
agency. Right. And
Mhm.
so I totally get where you're coming from because ultimately those agents are going to go out and serve their clientele. And I don't want them to lose clientele because I didn't put the right products in their hands.
Right.
And so it's so important to have those products, have the right ones, understand the benefits, and get the clients the right rates. Asking questions, right? I think this also comes back down to what product type fits this situation or this client.
Mhm.
And so, is there anything that you see on the health side where, well, you just mentioned, right? Like people are not necessarily in the right product. If something happens, then they're screwed. Can you
Mhm.
explain that a little bit better?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes with and again, like you hit the nail on the head there with putting the right product offering in agents' hands.
Mhm.
Because sometimes I've seen agents that are trying to like squeeze a square in a circle. Like,
Yeah.
well, this is the best plan in America. I'm like, well, but if your client has complications for pregnancy and you're in, some of those plans don't cover maternity, that's not the best plan for them. So I'm like, I don't care if it's the best in America. It wasn't the best for my client. And sometimes too, like I've seen certain products that they can maximize like um a cancer, heart attack, stroke policy. Those policies are super important. It's kind of like you said, like an IUL is not a scam. A cancer, heart attack, stroke policy is definitely not a scam. I've just helped my brother-in-law with one because my family better be covered. And so they're great plans, but they do pay higher than, a base level health insurance plan. So most health insurance policies pay about the same. Most of them do, like per month. Like if you break it down per month. Some
Right.
pay advances, some don't. But if you like, even if with advances, if you break them down per month, most of them are pretty close to each other. There's
Right.
not, you're talking like about pennies here. And so then they will break down that health plan. So they're like, oh, well, they all make about the same, right? But this one cancer, heart attack, stroke policy pays a lot. So then I'll sell them bare bones on their health plan so that they have this huge max out of pocket, like 20 grand max out of pocket. But they have this like cancer, heart attack, stroke policy that paid, 200,000 or 200% commission. And so when I see that, I'm like, the agent doesn't care about the client. They care about their commissions. And so I'm like, I don't want you to have a $20,000 max out of pocket if you get diagnosed with cancer. That's the worst day of your life.
Right.
If you get diagnosed with cancer, that's the worst day of your life. And then I get to tell you, oh, by the way, your max out of pocket's 20 grand on the worst day of your life. Like I refuse, I will never do that. And I will make sure that agents I work with are not going to do that. But obviously I can't control
Yeah.
everything. But if I see it, I will address it. And if I'm not liked because of it, we know that sometimes we're not liked. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I feel like what you're explaining because yes, the cancer, heart attack, stroke policy will cover that out of pocket.
Hmm.
But what if they go to the hospital and it's not one of those three, right? What if they're just in an accident
Hmm.
and now they have a $20,000 deductible, right?
Yeah.
It's not a substitute for a low deductible,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so it's kind of like with us and life insurance, you have a lot of agents really talking about living benefits and attaching them to the life policy, which it can be good for some clients that that's what they can afford. But if you can afford to have your living benefits on a separate policy, like a cancer,
Hmm.
heart attack, stroke, like that's even better because when you go to use those living benefits, you're not sacrificing your life insurance, right?
Right.
Because when it's together, there's only one benefit, and you use it in one area and it sacrifices the other area. And so, but what I do see is a lot of people sell the living benefits as a replacement or an alternative
Hmm.
for income replacement, or what we know as disability insurance.
Hmm.
Uh, where this is like, hey, if I get hurt, this is going to replace my income. But the problem is it doesn't replace your income. It pays out like one lump sum, and most of the policies say up to, so you don't even know what the client's going to actually get, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
The company's going to assess it, versus they could have a defined benefit. Hey, something happens, here's the income we're going to pay you per month for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or even until age 65, you're
Hmm.
covered.
Right.
Right. And yeah, no, I see it all the time on the life side, and it really is a shame, you know.
No, it is. It's disgusting. It really is. And it goes back to like, but what is that product created for? Go back to cancer, heart attack, stroke. And like you said, like, what if it isn't one of those three? What if it's not even accident related? What if like they got diverticulitis and they're in the hospital for 30 days? Like,
Right.
and so for me, cancer, heart attack, stroke, and not for like it was created to help pay like a mortgage or help pay you while you're in the hospital. So even if say you do get diagnosed with a heart attack and you use that entire benefit to cover that massive max out of pocket because that agent didn't know what they were doing and they like spiked up that max out of pocket, and now you have a client that can't pay their mortgage or their premium.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to get into this next part kind of for education, not just for agents, but really for clients.
Hmm.
I'm going to share a story. I was sitting in on a presentation, and one of my clients is a realtor, very successful realtor, and we're sitting at the table and at the real estate office, and they had another presenter talking about these living benefit products, and basically a term with living benefits attached, right? And I just remember, the sales pitch always sounds great, right?
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
she turns to me and she goes, "Do I have that?" And I just remember like looking at her like, "You got better."
Yeah.
Right? Because like
Yeah.
she's a higher end client, and so she has her whole life insurance. She has big convertible term policy to make sure her homes are paid off for her mom and for her daughter. She takes care of three generations, right?
Hmm.
And I just remember like, no, you got better because you actually have a defined critical illness benefit through a separate standalone critical illness policy that will not affect your life insurance, right?
Boom.
And
Yeah.
it's not up to, right? It's, hey,
Mhm.
this happens, here's 100 grand defined. And
Right.
so it's funny because you have to have that education in place. You have to educate your clients because they'll fall for anything
Hmm.
almost. And I don't
Yeah.
want to say anything. Obviously, some people are more educated than others, and some people have gone through mistakes. Like we've gotten clients money back from bad IUL policies. That the policies weren't bad again, but
Hmm.
they were sold as something they weren't. They were sold as retirement vehicles and savings accounts and all sorts of different things, anything but insurance, right?
Hmm.
There were, in some cases, some of the fees were not disclosed,
Hmm.
and the clients were set to lose a bunch of money. And we had to fight to get that back. And luckily, we've been able to get money back for the clients. Some of the insurance companies have done the right thing and, not put up much of a fight. Said, yeah, some of the agents that sold it have been fired for selling it improperly.
Yeah.
But if we can take a little moment to educate the clientele out there or people that are looking for health insurance, um, obviously we're talking a little bit about deductibles, right? What's the number one most important thing that, when you're sitting with a client, what are you
Mhm.
going over with them and what do they need to know?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing is if your agent is asking you a lot of questions, if they're asking, what have you have? What are you used to? What have you paid in the past? How many kids do you have? Like, how do your kids use it? Are they like accident prone? Do you have cancer in your family? Like asking true questions for them and then finding something that works for them versus saying like, well, our products let you choose your deductible. All products you can choose your deductible. Like our products you can take off doctor's visits, a lot of policies you can do that with. And so if they're starting to kind of talk in that, go down that way, you need to shop another agent. I used to say it more tactfully, but I'm like, I don't care anymore. You see some dark stuff after like almost 7 years in. I'm like, nope, you need to shop another agent. They need to ask you a bunch of questions like what truly is going to work for you. And then you need to ask them, what are my policy exclusions? Because if there's one policy exclusion, there's more. If they say like we can only go to the doctor like 10 times, whatever, there's more exclusions. If it starts at the top and there's an exclusion at the top, there's exclusions all the way through. So it's never like an exclusion from, there's like one little exclusion or, yeah, it's never just limited to one part of the policy. So if the policy allows you, which is good because you can, like, if you don't need maternity and you're 55 years old, that's great, so that's a good thing still. But if, if they're not able to show you all of the policy exclusions, then again, you need to shop somebody else.
And I think even that, right? Because some in that example, a 55-year-old may have a kid still at home that they had when they were 35. So the kid's 20 years old and the kid can stay on that health insurance. Well,
Hmm.
maybe they need maternity. And
Right.
right,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you never know. And so you have to ask those questions. But I think it's like what you're saying, it's pretty easy to see when they're not asking those questions, you could tell they're kind of like, well, here's this. Like they're pushing it
Hmm.
in your face, right?
Right.
And
Right. Exactly. Well, this
like
is good. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So no, definitely same thing in with life insurance, right? You watch out
Hmm.
for that. If they're pushing the IUL down your face, probably not a good agent. If they're
Hmm.
pushing a whole life down your face, probably not a, or even a term, right?
Yeah.
There's people out there that, oh, it's gotta be term, nothing else. And
Hmm.
it's like, no, you don't understand how life insurance actually works. That's the reality.
Yeah.
Uh,
I talked to a life agent. I used to, now that you and I are partnered together, so I get better education, but I used to kind of like ask, when I was like 3 or 4 years in the business and I was building relationships and stuff, and it was important for me to work with partners that also had integrity. So it's not agents, it's when you're building relationships and you're referring clients out, you want to make sure that that client's going to get taken care of by the person that you're working with or partnering with. And so I used to ask life agents, I'm like, what do you believe in term or whole life? And when they would say like whole life or IUL was a scam, they're like, oh, that's a scam. Term only, then I knew they like were pro product. I'm
yeah,
like, okay, if you say anything's a scam, you're probably pro product. I need you to be pro client.
yeah. Actually, I just saw this Facebook post. There's a whole, for anyone who doesn't know, there's a whole legal issue. You're probably going to start to see this.
Mhm. Yeah.
NASCAR, legendary NASCAR racer Kyle Busch just lost a bunch of money through an IUL. And the reason for that is because it was sold again as something that's not meant to be, right? It's meant to be insurance, not a retirement vehicle. And
Hmm.
so somebody made a post on that saying, hey, if if the agent is selling you a IUL as a retirement vehicle, they're unethical, run.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and I agree with it 100%. But it was funny because down in the comment section,
Yep.
uh, somebody put, so are you pro IUL or against IUL?
Hmm.
And I just thought, like, what a weird question, right? Like,
Yep. Yep.
a product is neutral. It's like if you if I went to my toolbox and I had a hammer and a screwdriver, my pro screwdriver or pro hammer, like,
Right. Right.
like
Yeah.
what do you mean? I'm going to use
Yeah.
the tool for the job.
Right.
Um, and it's like, no, I'm pro client.
Yeah.
And as far as I care about the products, all I care about the products is that it does what the client needs it to do and what I said it was going
Hmm.
to do.
Right. Exactly. It's a
Bottom
tool.
line. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, definitely, uh, especially when you're talking about large amounts of money, like get educated. If you're looking into health insurance, life insurance,
Hmm.
retirement, annuities, long-term care, take your time, get multiple opinions,
Hmm.
and find somebody
Well,
that can act.
nowadays you can throw that brochure in ChatGPT. I wouldn't make a life decision solely based off of ChatGPT, but that's a good tool.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And I think having somebody, I think this is important too, right? Having somebody that can explain the risk.
Hmm.
Because in my world, some of those products are sold as there's no risk, your money's safe.
Yeah.
Uh, that's not the case,
Hmm.
right? Why do you think this NASCAR driver just lost $8.5 million because of one of these products and because of the sales practices, right? It's
Right.
not risk-free. And even long term, these are not risk-free, right? There's speculation involved. There are risk involved. And the same thing, like you were explaining that situation. Yes, you bought a product, but your agent or the client wasn't properly covered
Hmm.
if they were to get cancer, right?
Right.
And so make sure the agent can explain the risk or the areas that are not covered in in the
100%.
in the policy, right? Like, hey, this is the risk. This is where we're maybe we could supplement here with another product if it fits in the budget, but
Hmm.
these are the holes in your coverage.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
somebody that's honest, right? Because why wouldn't you want that?
100%. I mean, I have clients on products that have gaps and holes in them, like because it still fit their needs. And I explain all of that. I'm like, this is what you're sacrificing.
Mhm.
Do you need to be here in a year from now? Yes. Will this take you there? Absolutely. And so if they can't explain that, and if they're like, this is amazing, best product on the market, then
Yeah,
yeah, run.
yeah.
Respectfully run.
And that's something that works for me, right? I'm at an age, I'm not too concerned.
Hmm.
I don't mind having gaps in my coverage,
Right.
right? Like, but do I have a supplemental product or a living benefit product that might help fill some of those gaps, right? And that's where having a good agent is going to make a big difference because they can help fill some of those holes and make it work for your budget. But yeah, as far as people telling you, hey, this is the product, it's just this, they
Yeah.
hype you up like this is the best thing on the market. Maybe for somebody.
Right. Well, exactly. Maybe for somebody. So avoid like questions like always, they always cover. Avoid that. Oh, they always cover. No, no, in like insurance, like whether we like to admit it or not. I mean, I will say this, like insurance companies don't try to cover claims. They try not to cover claims naturally, because then there's more money in the pot to cover the things that they're supposed to cover. And so they don't like go out of their way, like, oh, let's pick up this extra claim usually. Like sometimes I've seen stuff get covered, but always have that mindset. Like when you go into it, like if they're like, they always cover everything. I've never seen them deny a claim. No, complete lie. Like those are things like you need to avoid, or they're like they so always, never, those words. And then if they say like guaranteed, nothing's guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed. I'm sure you get that more on your side, but nothing's guaranteed. And if they say best or worst, this is the best product. Those products are crap. Those products are the worst. Those products are in the market for a reason. So
Yeah,
they're probably not the worst. And if it's the worst for you, they need to explain why.
yeah,
So yeah, yeah, avoid that type of verbiage.
yeah. I'm thinking of because we're brokers in both spaces, right? And
Mhm.
Emeritus is a great life insurance company, good participating whole life product. Um, but do they have the highest dividends? No. I like to put my clients with like a Mass Mutual looking
Mhm.
for dividends, and do they offer the same flexibility on their product with Mass Mutual? No, Emeritus is more flexible, right? And so
Yeah,
the one thing you want to understand too is that there's no free lunch, right? Like if
yeah,
one carrier or even product is giving you one thing or it's a lower premium, there's probably something that you're not getting in that product, or there's some kind of sacrifice, right? And
Mhm.
understand that there is no free lunch. If this other product is giving you more benefits, it might be lacking somewhere else, right? So
Right.
Emeritus is going to give me a lot better coverage for my premium. I'm going to get a higher amount of coverage because it's cheaper coverage, but I'm not going to get the same growth long term
Yeah,
because the dividends are smaller, right? And so
right.
it's just understanding, making sure that the product fits your goals, and if
Mhm.
you're an agent, it's fitting your client's goals. So
100%. Yeah, it's like I told you about my niece yesterday. My niece she just lost her mom to cancer, and so she's worried. Like she's worried that she might not be able to get something because she's high risk now because it's immediate family that got sick. And so for her, like she's young and healthy, and so for her, she wants something that doesn't have high dividends, like for now because of cost. And then
right.
maybe down the line, because those are her goals now. So maybe down the line, then we can fill those gaps more. So that's why it's important to work with somebody that actually cares about you and not about a product.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Would you have any last words for the audience, whether it's consumers or for agents?
I think we covered a lot. My
Yeah.
my advice, like truly, is like, I love like if you tell me what you're reading, what you're watching, who you're hanging out with, I can tell you your future. And so I would focus on that, like who your circle is. It's okay to love people from afar. What are you consuming? Truly, what are you consuming? Like it's from not just from a diet perspective, but what are you consuming for what are you filling your brain with? Your brain is like the most powerful organ in your body. So
Yeah.
what are you feeding your brain?
Yeah. And I love like my network because everybody in my network is successful, right?
Mhm.
And I'll share a story. I kind of had this realization. Um, I want to say it was my second year in the industry, and we went golfing on at a country club, right? And I remember just walking out to the parking lot, and I saw the cars lined up, and it was like Maserati, Benz, Beamer, Ferrari, another Benz, right?
Mhm.
And you look at all these high end cars, and you realize like that whole idea, like who your five best friends are, you're going to be the six.
Mhm.
I just remember thinking like, imagine, like when somebody makes it out of five broke friends and they're successful, what do those broke friends say?
Mhm.
Oh, he got lucky. Oh, yeah, just things fell his way. Like
Yeah.
some magic happened for the one successful person, right?
Yeah. They
And
attack
and
your
they're
character usually.
right.
Mhm.
And but I just pictured it the other way around because I saw these five cars and I just imagined the owners of each car all like standing around. And I could imagine just somebody coming in with some, beat up 30-year-old car.
Mhm.
Like these people aren't going to say, "Oh, he just got unlucky," or "Oh,
Right.
poor him." Like, no, they're going to look at him like, when are you going to do the work?" Like,
Yeah. Yep.
"Whoa, like, what are you doing?" So,
Yeah. It's funny. I had told Jessie, I had told her about like interior design, like, and a lot of my friends were, or not friends, let's be real. A lot of people that have hung out with were like, oh, okay, that's a fun, cute little hobby. And she's like, I can help you grow it, like I can help you, like, give you ideas of how to grow it. So it was just very like, matter of fact, like, oh, okay, cool. Like you want to start another, it wasn't like, oh wow, well, like why would you want to do that? It wasn't like shocking to her, So like
right.
that's why it is important to um there's something to be said about some privacy, like keeping certain goals that are for you. But if you do want to share them, sharing them with the right people.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Priscilla, how can people get in contact with you?
So I'm Priscilla, the health agent, literally everywhere, like LinkedIn, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Priscilla, the health agent. You can email me at priscillalmoreno@outlook.com, or you can call me at 210-705-3578.
Awesome. Well, Priscilla, I really appreciate you hopping on the channel and spending some time together here. I'm definitely sure the audience will appreciate it as well. If you guys feel free to contact Priscilla. She is an amazing health agent. She is experienced, right? And she's going to do right for you or for your clients if you want to work with her. If you want to reach out to me, everything will be in the description. Feel free to reach out if you need a policy review or you just want to say, hey, how can I get better training? How can I grow my business? If you're an agent, we have the products, we have the team, the support to help you. Feel free to reach out anytime. And so until next time, have a good one.